Welcome, everybody. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family of the export finance community. It is 2 p.m. and people are still dialing in. We will be starting in a minute. A couple of housekeeping items. First, you will be muted during the session. If you have questions, feel free to post them in the chat, or if anything arises that you want to have individual counsel on, send them to us via email. You have our email addresses posted on this website. If you're joining this session on your mobile, you may have to enter a password. Keep that in mind. And as usual, we will send you the deck with which we are presenting after the session. With that being said, I'm your host today. My name is Frank Helmert, and I'm hosting this session together with my fantastic colleague, Andreas Gehring. Andreas, welcome. And we have a quite diverse audience today. This is in fact our first webinar that we're doing on the new package of measures in English. We've done a couple of them in German. So some of you may be familiar with the general content. Nevertheless, since we have a very diverse audience today, banks, exporters, some brokers, chambers of commerce, and some may be new, most will be familiar with ECA-backed financing. But since we have a diverse audience here, this will be more of an overview of the individual initiatives. So if there are any in-depth questions, feel free to post them in the chat, but some of the questions we might need to come back to you individually, which we're very happy to do. So with that being said, as an introduction, this package of measures was introduced by the government early this year, mid-January, and it was sort of an historic opportunity, I would say. Some of the initiatives have been in the making and in discussion for several years, actually. Some of them are based on initiatives and products that we've launched a couple of years ago, and we've built on these products. And for those of you that are maybe not so familiar with ECAs and ECA-backed financing, just to set the scene, of course, ECA-backed financing is thought to be a win-win-win situation. So if you look at it from the perspective of the government obviously wants to support German business, wants to support specifically the export industry, and steps in where the private market would not provide coverage. For exporters and banks, which are, of course, our primary customers, ECA-backed financing is there to secure transactions with the support of the government and provide the financing conditions that are needed in the transaction. And last but not least, the foreign customers, they are able to buy German goods and services on payment terms reliably, so it gives them peace of mind as well. If we look at the package of measures, and maybe one word on the package, even in German, it's sort of a bureaucratic monster if you say Maßnahmenpaket. And I know that it doesn't sound any better in English. Next time we'll try to find a better wording for it. But for the sake of it, if we look at the package of measures that we will be presenting today, there will be 5 initiatives in particularly that we spent more time on, and we've sort of arranged them in the order of demand and interest that we see from the market. The first one is Flex and Cover, and many of you have heard about it, have reached out to us on the conditions of Flex and Cover. What it does is it complements our traditional approach on eligibility. Of course, the discussion on German content versus German interest has been raging for some time now, probably more than 10 years in the community. Some ECAs have moved on this topic, and the German ECA has done so this year. What it does is it sort of changes our perspective on how we look at eligibility. We still have the 49 plus approach, but there is an additional approach where we look at what we call German footprint. So we no longer would be looking at the individual transaction when we look at eligibility criteria in terms of content. We would run through a procedure where in the end we provide eligibility for 3 years in terms of German content, and that sort of takes away the pressure on the individual transaction in terms of German content and provides peace of mind for 3 years going forward on that particular aspect. We also improved our shopping line cover. We had a version of shopping line cover before that had very little traction in the market, so the government decided to improve that cover line, and we'll talk more about that. We will also be talking about the forfeiting guarantee, also a product that had been out in the market but had little traction. So there were a number of improvements that we introduced there. We have the counter guarantee. Probably the most important thing about that is we increased the maximum amount per exporter, which we've discussed with various banks and exporters prior to that. And of course, in this political atmosphere, the government also decided to do something on defense, adapt our cover policies there, and do something for the security and defense sector. So that's an overview. One thing to add, we were in discussions and still are about improvements to our ESG procedures. That's still ongoing, so we will not spend any time on this today. We will focus on these 5 measures. First thing we will take a look at is Flex and Cover. What it does, and I briefly touched upon it, is if flexibility is important for you in your transactions in terms of German content, then this product is probably for you. So instead of looking at every single transaction that you bring to our tables, we would do a company-specific eligibility test. There are specific criteria that we would discuss with you. And basically, the German government wants to establish a solid view on the German footprint that your company has. And there are 7 criteria we would take particular interest in. That's research and development, that's taxes paid in Germany, investments in Germany, where the company headquarters, the number of employees, education, and the regional significance of your production sites. When you get the Flex and Cover pass for 3 years, basically we don't look at the German content requirements on the individual transaction. Certain exceptions apply. So if we're talking about very large transactions in excess of 100 million euros, we would still ask for German content and foreign content, but that's more for reinsurance reasons. It's not an eligibility criteria per se. I think it's important to note that of course, German content is still important, and we will talk about that during the eligibility test and the procedure that leads to the Flex and Cover pass. So it's not that Flex and Cover would allow for these 3 years for 0% German content, not at all. But what it does, it provides flexibility. So there will be and there can be transactions that allow for less than 50%, maybe even less than 30%, but there will also be transactions that are above these thresholds. So it's about more flexibility and also less bureaucracy. So many of the monitoring requirements would not apply during this period where Flex and Cover Pass applies. So that's Flex and Cover in a nutshell. Maybe we can spend a little time on the procedure. How do we get there? Typically, exporters approach us and tell us, hey, I'd like to apply for Flex and Cover. And what we typically do is we guide them through the criteria, guide them through the process. In the end of that process, there typically is a presentation before the government. Takes about an hour, where we would go through all the criteria, also through the sourcing process of the applicant. And if all criteria are matched, that's a very clear result. But it's important to say not all criteria have to be met as such. There may be times where, let's say, research and development is not a strong suit of the particular applicant. That does not mean that your company cannot get Flex and Cover. We look at all the criteria. We look also at the sourcing situation of the company, and the government makes a decision based on the overall view of the German footprint. So one of the questions connected to this is, are there fixed thresholds for each of the criteria? And the answer is no, and I think for very good reasons. The government has thought about fixing thresholds, but I think it's a good decision not to have any fixed thresholds on that, but take a look at the overall situation of the company. And in that respect, I think there's enough flexibility to allow for the very individual situations that we find in these processes. So far, I think that has been a good has been good news for the German companies that went through this process. We're still at the beginning of Flex and Cover, so procedures are still adapting. We see different scenarios with different exporters, and the government is constantly adjusting decisions to these situations. So I think it's what you would otherwise call an agile setup of product development. And I think that's a good sign because the product is evolving as we progress and as we see more and more applicants going through. And I think so far it's been a good process that allowed for enough flexibility to allow new scenarios into the Flex and Cover Pass. I'll stop there and hand over to Andreas. I'm sure we'll have more questions in the chat, maybe at the end of the session. And I'll hand over to Andreas now for the next initiative, which is the shopping line cover.
Thanks a lot, Frank. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you here. My name is Andreas Gehring. I'm responsible for product development. And especially in those days, I'm very happy that I can present a lot of new product innovations, which might help you to be more competitive on the international markets. We see there are really challenging times, and sometimes it's very hard for German exporters to win contracts. We as a German ECA are willing to give best possible support. And I think this package of measures will be one key element for this. And we will describe certain items. We will describe certain ideas, but it's a start for discussion. It's a framework, and we are willing to listen to your needs. So please contact us, present your case, present your negotiation, and then we are willing to find a solution. And especially for Flex and Cover and also for the shopping line, the German government has decided to have more or less a pilot phase, a testing phase of 2 years. And especially in those 2 years, we would like to get experience, know the very specific needs of the market, and then continue fixing further details. But our aim is to make you on the world market more competitive, and competitiveness needs that it's very attractive for the importer that he will buy in Germany. And I think we all know that we have a good export base in Germany, strong innovation, strong technological solution, and I think a very strong benefit is also the AAA rating, which gives stability and allows you on the markets to present convincing financial solutions. What is the idea of the new shopping line cover? Well, it's bundling the deliveries and services from different exporters in Germany, and you as a bank will establish a credit line, one documentation process, one application for Hermes cover, and then for a certain period of time you can make use of this cover and of the credit line by various deliveries. And of course we will have a look at the deliveries you have had in the past and the deliveries you plan, but you have flexibility in case there are new technologies or you get access to new exporters. Then the importer without any problems can also include this new technology, this new machinery. And the idea is that the importer combines all those delivery, that he has several tranches, several disbursements, but the German government does not have any minimum idea. So you as a bank in cooperation with the exporters and the importer will decide what is best for you, how many deliveries you need, how many disbursements you need. And I think this is a good starting point. And we have learned a lot from the discussions we had before. Frank already mentioned it before, that we have already a shopping line for 3 years, but at the beginning there had been some restrictions. Those restrictions in those days had been necessary, but I think today in a changing world we have learned, and therefore it's a strong wish of the German government to show this flexibility to the market. And maybe we will have a closer look at what are the key elements of the new shopping line. So the German government would like to give incentives for sourcing in Germany, and therefore we have improved and more flexible product. And we would like to intensify the relation to the foreign importer. So we will have discussions, we will have also, for example, matchmaking events, so that the importer will have the possibility to know the variety of German exporters, which he might include in shopping line cover. But we have also seen from the procedural side, it's very important that the market needs simplified conditions. The auditing and loan process is simplified, and we really have the intention to listen to the needs of the markets. You in the market you will negotiate on the contract, and you have some necessities to win those contracts in sake of the German export industry. And we would like to know those needs, and there might be solutions to integrate this in shopping line cover. As I already mentioned, in this 2-year introduction phase, we will listen especially to those needs, and then we will develop it and fix it in a more formal way. But especially in those 2 years, we would like to that shopping line cover will be really competitive on the market. As we know, a lot of other industry nations have already shopping line cover, and you as a German exporter, you as a supporting bank are competing with those offered by the ECAs, and therefore we also would like to offer a package which really is competitive on those markets. So for example, we are nowadays less restrictive regarding the quality of the importers. In the beginning of shopping line cover, we concentrated on the top level of importers. Nowadays, we are much more flexible. So we have a general overview on the standing of the importer. What is the industrial sector? What is the standing? What is the market position? What is the business proposal? And of course, it's very helpful that such an exporter has investment grade. But we also know that in some emerging markets, it's really hard to find importers with an investment grade, because also the sovereign rating is not always investment grade, and therefore, of course, we will have a look at the general situation. We also will be more flexible with regard to drawings. So maybe you will have your first drawing on day 1. It's nowadays it's possible, and sometimes you do not know at the beginning what will be your drawing plan and what will the exact days of disbursement. But in this first phase, you will have the possibility to draw those amounts you need. Of course, we also can include already concluded business in a certain way. The market expert called this reach back. It's possible, but it's mostly to show that you have already a good connection to Germany, that the importer is already buying goods from Germany, and our intention is to increase the imports from Germany. And especially when granting shopping line cover, we will have a look at the current importing situation and the plans for the future. We also have seen that there might be a simplified payment requirements. We will come to this later. So with regard to disbursements, drawing, and with regard to repayment, we will have a better flexibility. For example, in case you have various drawings, it might be good for the importer that nevertheless he has only 2 repayment dates for each year. So you can bundle those different drawings, those different disbursements, and then you will have a repayment plan with only 2 repayment dates a year. And of course, this is very helpful for the importer, and this is less bureaucratic. And of course, we grant a shopping line cover, and you as a bank will pay a certain premium to the German government. In former times, this had been 100% upfront premium. Sometimes we heard from the market that this might be a little bit complicated. Therefore, Nowadays, it's an option. It's possible to have the payment of the premium to the German government with regard to the disbursement. So in case you have a disbursement of 10 million euro, you only will pay the premium for this 10 million euro. And not for the whole shopping line. So you see also from the procedural side, from the technical side, we have improved a lot to make this product very attractive in the daily operation. Shopping line cover is one possibility to give incentives for sourcing in Germany. But we know that there is a growing number of EPC contractors in the market. In former days, we all had our bio credit cover, and also EPC contractors from other countries had the possibility to make use of bio credit cover, so not shopping line cover, but there had been some limitation. So all parts of a general project had to be contracted in Germany. And as a result, some portions of such a general project which had been sourced and signed outside Germany, for example, in France or Portugal or so on, couldn't be included into our EPC cover. And we have learned from the market, and nowadays it's also possible to include those portions signed from parties outside Germany. So summing up, I think two elements, shopping line cover and improved EPC cover, will help you to win your deals on the market. And maybe also for shopping line, it's helpful to step a little bit more deeper into the procedural side. So we have described a search, the shopping line cover, let me say, is 300 million euro. It's only an example. But what's the way how you approach the German government? At the beginning, it's not necessary that you know all the details. You can start with a letter of interest, contact us and say, okay, those are the needs, those are the requested amounts you intend for the credit line, and we will have a look at the previous purchases of the German exporter and of course the future plans. It's not only mentioning a certain amount, but also showing which German exporters are part of the purchases the importer has already made or will make in the future in Germany. And then we will have a general analysis of the whole situation, the import structure of the importer in Germany, and then the German government will come to a certain conclusion and then grant a letter of interest. And this is a very strong signal for you to continue with the negotiations on the markets. And then you will see, okay, in case you will follow this initial concept, the German government will be at your side. Then we can continue with the normal process, and the experts already having made use of Hermes cover know that the basic idea is offer of cover. This is a formal application, and this formal application will be given to us by the bank. This is the basis with all the specific details. And of course, we will have an additional paper, we will call it ECA term sheet, summarizing all the specific details of the importer structure, because it's not only the application between bank and the German government, we all need a paper also for the third party, that is the importer, and a paper we can the basis for discussion. What about the currencies? We have seen in the market, we see demand for euro and US dollars. Therefore, those are the currency we will offer shopping line cover. And then finally, you have won the deal with the importer. Everything is fixed, and then we also will give the final commitment. We will grant a cover for the credit line toward the bank, and the beneficiary will be the importer. Technically, so for the experts, it's a buyer credit cover. So the structure, the principle are well known in the market, and we have modified this by special terms and conditions to consider all those details and amendments with regard to shopping line cover. And as we already have said, it's between bank and German government. We will include the foreign importer by so-called importer's declaration. And so we have involved all the three parties. And then it will be very simple. The importer can make a very flexible use of the shopping line cover. He has the option to have one or various drawdowns, and he has flexible repayment. And of course, we all have to comply with the OECD arrangement, this international agreement, where you, for example, need a down payment. You have limitations with local cost, but of course, we will give you the necessary advice with all those technical details. And then the bank informs Euler Hermes about the drawings, but a very simple information, mostly mentioning the amount of the drawing. And based on this, we will collect the premium for the bank. And the most important change from former shopping line is that no formal approval is necessary towards this drawing. So you have a fully valid shopping line cover, and then you can make this flexible use. But of course, we are interested what are your imports from Germany, and therefore we request afterwards once a year a monitoring report. The importer will collect all the data, will provide this to the bank, and the bank will give us this very specific monitoring report to have full transparency on the imports from Germany. But more or less on a high level, you mentioned the the exporters in Germany, the amounts, and probably the goods and some additional details. And we are of the opinion that the first shopping line for an importer is only a starting point. So the best thing is to have positive experience from a shopping line, that the grown number of exporters and amounts will lead to further shopping line cover in the future. And of course, the first time we will give you best possible advice, and then of course, the second or third shopping line cover will be much more easier, and you have a very good payment experience, and you have a good relation between all parties involved. So get in touch with us to learn more on shopping line cover. Shopping line cover is one part, but let me have a look at the foreign content idea Frank already mentioned in the beginning. In case we have single transactions cover, I think the simplest idea is that you have a German certificate of origin, then no further details are necessary. Everything will be 100% German. Everything will be quite simple. But you are the expert on the market. You know that 100% of Germany is not always possible. So we acknowledge the needs of the market, and therefore, for many, many years, we are in the position to include foreign content up to 95%. without further justification, and of course, much more on a case-by-case basis. And especially since I'm here for climate-friendly projects, we allow up to 70%. This is single transaction. But as Frank already mentioned, sometimes it's very helpful that we will have a look at the business model of the German exporter. And then flex and cover will be an option. Flex and cover will give to you the less requirements in the very specific application, because in case you have received the positive indications from the German government towards flex and cover, then you only can mention the application, flex and cover granted, and no further details are necessary, no further discussion with us or the German government are necessary, unless you have very large projects, more than 100 million euro. And that, I think that's in the day-to-day business, it's very helpful. One last word, we mostly see contracts signed by the German exporter. But sometimes it's necessary due to the needs of the markets or to legal requirements that a subsidiary of the German exporter has to sign the contract. It's possible, and there will be a certain assignment, and we will accept this. But as I already mentioned, it's also possible to include independently contracted parts which are contracted abroad and which are necessary in an overall EPC contract. And that is good news nowadays for EPC contractors. It's also possible. So you see, foreign content has a lot of opportunities, and we have reduced administrative burden. So flex and cover and shopping line cover are the key elements of the new package of measures. But we have thought that it might be helpful to also to have more flexibility in other fields of activities with regard to other products. Forfeiting guarantee is a very good example. In case you have transaction up to 10 million euro based on a contract of an exporter, we all see that supplier credit cover, we know it already today, might lead to some limitations with the exporter. So he might sell and assign and forfeit the receivables to a bank, the forfeiter, but sometimes those banks hesitate a little bit. And therefore we offer forfeiting guarantee. So the German government will give a forfeiting guarantee in favor of a forfeiter, and this will help that it might be much more easier for the German exporter to assign those contracts to the bank. So I think that's a very good idea. We started with this, I think, 2 years ago, but we have seen that there had been room for improvement. And this improvement had been done also in this package of measures. But what is the structure in general? You all know the political risk and the commercial risk covered by supplier credit cover. But then there are a lot of additional specific legal risk. So is the supplier credit claim really effective? Is the assignment valid? What about violations of obligations by the exporter? And all those questions might result to certain doubts. And we will take the doubts by granting a forfeiting guarantee in favor of the bank. So we will pay out immediately to the bank. The bank has a liquidity, so assignment is very attractive for the bank. And then in case a little bit later, after 6 months, we will go into the details in case there is a claim. And then sometimes there might be some doubts, there had been some problems with the exporter, then we will collect the money maybe from the exporter. But the bank is on the safe side. And also we reduced the waiting period and the claims processing period. And this is also a big advantage, having only a look towards supplier credit. But what are the improvements? I think the marketability had been really increased. For example, the time of payment had been much more flexible. In former times, it had been necessary for valid assignment that all deliveries had been made and had been accepted by the importer. Nowadays, it might be possible that the bill of lading date is the basis for assignment. And in former times, we only accepted exporting companies. Nowadays, in case we have eligible business, also trading companies might be eligible for forfeiting guarantee. And a very strong statement from the German government for forfeiting guarantee, we increased cover ratio from 80% to 95%. But the same cover ratio like in supplier credit. So there is no gap. In former times, we had 2 claims payments. First of all, 80%, and after 6 months, the rest, 15%. Not so easy, not so flexible. Now, 95% paid out to the bank directly in the beginning. And of course, we have some improvements for German banks issuing or having a license to issue German covered bonds, Pfandbriefe, and we also have some amendments to make this business also usable for forfeiting guarantee. So let me come to the next idea with regard.
Andreas, can I quickly interrupt you, because there was one question in the chat with regards to the shopping line. Maybe this is a good time to first answer that and then go over the counter guarantee. The question was, could you please elaborate on how German sourcing and foreign content rules are outlined will be applied and tested under the shopping line?
Yeah, thanks a lot for presenting this question. I think it's a good idea to respond to the bank. Well, as I already mentioned, the German sourcing, and I will show the correspondent slide. One moment, please. The basic is the analysis of the previous purchase and the future purchase in Germany. So there are not really fixed rules regarding German sourcing and foreign content. Of course, the majority of goods should come from German exporters, but we will have at the overall view. So in case we have the application for the letter of interest, then we will have the analysis. And in case, or based on this very specific explanation, the German government has granted the letter of interest and afterwards granted offer of cover and final commitment, then we will stick to the cover. And of course, the intention is to increase the German sourcing, but sometime in reality, there might be some changes because some technology is not available in time, or sometimes the importer requires goods in a very short notice from another country. That's possible, and therefore we will have a look at the monitoring report afterwards. And sometimes we will have some talks, but there is still a very valid shopping line cover. In case there are very strong changes in case there are no imports from Germany, and in the beginning they have promised to have very strong import. Then, of course, we will have discussion with all the parties, and maybe at the very last situation, we will have some discuss on further disbursements. But of course, all parties have an interest in exports from Germany. I think this is only a theoretical idea. So the idea is having a look at German sourcing at the beginning, no really fixed rules, and then monitoring once a year, having a look whether the promises has been fulfilled. So I hope this answer this question had been answered by those explanations, and then we'll come to the counter guarantee. So a counter guarantee is well established in the market. It gives a little bit more flexibility to all parties involved, because in a lot of cases those guarantees are necessary. Nowadays we have a certain threshold for each importer, so 80 million euro as a threshold for the exporter, and this threshold has been increased to 120 million euro per exporter. That's mostly for having a look at the portfolio, but on a case-by-case basis, especially for transformation projects, green projects, higher amounts will be possible, and we have a very good flexibility. And we also will have a better possibility for the security and defense industry. We nowadays also have a specific team concentrating on this field of activities, this industry. They will give to you best possible advice, and the flexibility is with regard to amounts, with regard to credit horizon, and with regard to countries. Please contact us in case you are interested in this very specific defense industry. And not only our teams in Hamburg are at your side, but we have a lot of expertise in your target market. So we have our financing experts worldwide, in Western Africa, in Singapore, in the Middle East. We nowadays have a new colleague in Latin America, offering some webinars and traveling through Latin America and joining you in your talks to importers. And of course, we have a new established business development team, mostly concentrating on business and sustainable projects. They will join you in your discussions with importers. They will give explanations to banks, so please contact us. And the comprehensive support is also a new approach from our side, to be at your side in the market, in the deal, and at your side before you formally provide us with an application. And of course, you know, we have a wide range of possible information sources. We have provided this here in this slide. You know, our homepage. You have the partners in Hamburg, or continue to have information events, and of course you will follow us on LinkedIn. And of course, to learn more on the possibilities to source from Germany, we closely cooperate with German Trade in the West, and of course we mentioned it with regard to shopping like cover. Of course, matchmaking events might be a growing field of activities to bring importers and exporters together. So this is a quick overview on the measures we had. And now the floor is open to you. Please do not hesitate to ask your questions, and we will be happy to answer those in the chat.
Thank you, Andreas. And while we are waiting for any additional questions, I just wanted to reiterate what Andreas just said. The majority of requests that we get on any of these initiatives, be it Flex and Cover, be it Shopping Line, be it extended counter guarantees, the majority of these are not plain vanilla, and that's the nature of our business. So we have an experienced team of experts for any of these initiatives, and they will help you with the process. They will help you with all of the things that are not plain vanilla in your specific transaction or business model, and we'll find a solution. So please get in contact. There are any number of ways you can do that, by phone, by email, reach out on LinkedIn, what have you, and we'll guide you through.
And we also have some very positive reaction from the market. So Frank already mentioned that Flex and Cover application had been placed, and we had a lot of discussion in Berlin on very specific exporters. We have nowadays the first applications for Shopping Line LOEs. We will work on this end. We already had the first cover giving for forfeiting and guarantees. There are banks in the market willing to do the assignment. They have finally finalized all the contracts when an exporter will sell the receivables to the bank. So the market partners are ready. We are looking for new opportunities, for new deals, just with the overall idea to win contracts, to have better possibilities for German exporters.
All right, I have one additional question on Shopping Line, and it's actually two questions. And I'll hand it over to you, Andreas. The question is, what's the maximum tenor of the Shopping Line? And the second one would be regarding amortization, is it possible to be 100% bullet?
Well, the tenor really is in for Shopping Line is in accordance with the OECD rules. So there are certain tenors, let me say 8.5 or 10 years. This might be the usual term, and then you have to decide which will be the real repayment period and what will be the availability period. In case you have 10 years, for example, you have 1 year availability period, then 9 years will remain for credit period. So try to give to us the needs you have, and the maximum will be given by the OECD range. Regarding 100% disbursement, as I understand, theoretically it's possible. So the full flexibility of drawings in the this first period, the availability period is given. This also might have an impact on the total situation. In case you have, let me say, 20-50 million euro, of course, this might be an option. In case you have a larger amount, we have heard from the market that there are natural slots, that there are national divisions. So it's not necessary to have the drawing of 100% at the very beginning in case of very large amounts, but tell us the needs, and we will have a look at us and we'll present this to our ministries in Berlin. But one very important improvement also is it's no more necessary for reach back to have, let me say, €1 reach back and only €1 new business with the first drawing. This very formal rule has been abolished. So in general, reachback will be possible, but it will be part of the general analysis of the former behavior or the buying behavior of the importer, and then we will look at the overall view. And of course, this flexibility is needed on the market. This is the idea I have gained is various talks with market participants. So we do not see any further questions. Therefore, we would like to thank you a lot for your participation and your interest in this webinar. We are now open to have very specific talks to you, and of course, we will have also individual webinars, individual trainings for your organization in case you're interested. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody. I don't think we have any remaining questions in the chat or any private channels. So thanks again, and hope to be in touch with you soon with any of the individual transactions you would want to discuss with us. Thank you so much. And
that's one additional question.
Oh yeah. All right. Go ahead.
Nicola, go ahead. Yes, please. And maybe you write it down in the chat, as I understand it's no video possible today.
And can you see the question, because it's not coming up in my chat?
No, I can see it, but please try to type or contact us afterwards individually, because we have seen your name, but until now it's not in the chat. So this might be a technical problem. So we promise to contact you afterwards. I will give you a call, and then we can talk on the question individually.
Excellent. All right. With that being said, and no other questions, at least in the official chat, thank you for participating, and have a nice day.
All the best to you. Bye-bye.